The Expressive One-Word Picture Vocabulary Test, Spanish Bilingual, 3rd edition, or the EOWPVT-SBE by Anthony Bianco,
Jennifer Ferranti,
Samantha Greenberg,
and Felicia Sobieski.
For our advanced organizer, we're going to begin with our introduction, key information, administration, scoring and analysis, usefulness, new features of the new edition, ROWPVT, and our EBP. For our Know, What, and Learn chart, we begin with Assess Expressive Language and helps determine language dominance. Under the Want section, we have How are scores interpreted and do you get both English and Spanish scores? Under the Learn section, we have ages 4 through 12 only. Standard English edition is ages 2 to 80 plus. Can be given in both languages, cross-referenced, co-named.
This is a norm-referenced assessment. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to administer. It is administered to ages 4 years through 12 years, 11 months. This is developed specifically for the use with bilingual individuals who speak English and Spanish with varying levels of proficiency. It is noted that this is the population the 4th edition was normed from. The EOWPVT-SBE was co-normed with the ROWPVT-SBE, so meaningful comparisons can be easily made between an individual's expressive and receptive vocabulary.
This assessment measures the ability to name in Spanish or English objects, actions, and concept pictures in illustrations. Because examinees are permitted to respond in either language, the test measures total acquired vocabulary. It is not a test of language proficiency, however, since language includes grammar and syntax as well as vocabulary. It is important to note that the test components of the Expressive Spanish Bilingual 4th edition are not interchangeable with components of the Expressive English 4th edition from 2011. Any differences between the two types of vocabulary abilities, between expressive and receptive, can easily be compared and interpreted for clinical importance. National norms were based on a sample of Spanish bilingual individuals residing in the United States.
How do you test the EOWPVT? Well, first, the examiner must be fluent in both Spanish and English, or be assisted by someone fluent in the language not spoken by the principal examiner, in order to understand whether any dialectal variants should be counted as correct. Instructions are presented in the examinee's dominant language, administered in either Spanish or English or both languages, and the individual is given the opportunity to respond in either language. The examiner is going to present a series of illustrations that each depict an object, action, or concept, and the examinee is asked to name each illustration. There are prompts and cues that are provided on the record form. Age-related starting points and ceilings, reached when the examinee makes a set number of consecutive errors, ensure that only a subset of items is administered, allowing testing to usually be completed in 20 to 25 minutes. There is also a basal of 8 consecutive correct responses.
Scoring. Scoring for the EOWPVT is easy and straightforward. Generally, scoring should take the examiner about 5 minutes. If the examinee responds correctly in Spanish, you circle the S. And if the examinee responds correctly in English, you circle the E. Put a slash through the number on the column for an incorrect response. You write down every response. Raw scores are reported as standard scores, percentile ranks, and if necessary, age equivalents. Test manual provides statistical significance and percent of sample with difference.
Here we will talk about analysis. So there is a raw score, a standard score, a confidence interval, percentile rank, and age equivalence given. You are able to compare the scores for the expressive and the receptive vocabulary. In the manual, there are tables that will tell if there is a significant difference between expressive and receptive language skills. Here we have an image of an example of comparison of obtained EOWPVT-SBE and ROWPVT-SBE standard scores. There is a comparison of the receptive and expressive vocabulary that lists the expressive standard score, the receptive standard score, the difference, the statistical significance, and the percent of sample with this difference. The usefulness of this test for English learners is that it allows the examinee to answer in either Spanish or English. It determines what their dominant language is through questions at the beginning of the test. Because of how this test is designed, it's going to give you an idea of how proficient the child is in both Spanish and English, and at what frequency they use each language.
The new features of the EOWPVT-SBE include expanded norms, which go from ages 20 through 70 plus. The words have also been added at both the lower end for the younger children and at the upper end for adults. The order of the 180 test plates is different from that used in the English editions, reflecting the developmental word usage patterns specific to this population, and simplifying both the administration and scoring of the test. All of the words were derived from the English language 4th edition of this test. Each edition, English and Spanish, now uses its own set of test plates.
There's also a sister version of the EOWPVT, which is the ROWPVT, which is the Receptive One-Word Picture Vocabulary Test, 4th edition, also in the Spanish bilingual edition. The ROWPVT is the receptive language version of the one-word picture vocabulary test. This test assesses an individual's ability to match a spoken word to an image of an object, action, or concept. Just as in the EOWPVT-SBE, answers can be given in either Spanish or English. It is norm-referenced and available to be used for ages 2 through 70 plus years. The scorer's manual is user-friendly and is designed just like the EOWPVT-SBE 4. These tests can be used together to give a comparison score. It will provide the scorer with information on statistical significance. Together, they will give you an understanding of an examinee's receptive and expressive language ability at the one-word level with both Spanish and English.
Evidence-based practice. For our evidence-based practice, we used an article titled Conceptual Scoring of Receptive and Expressive Vocabulary Measures in Simultaneous and Sequential Bilingual Children from the American Journal of Speech-Language Pathology. This article reviews the effectiveness of receptive and expressive assessments administered to students who are either simultaneous or sequential bilingual children. The study included 40 monolingual, 39 simultaneous bilingual, and 19 sequential bilingual children. A fair representation of the types of English learners typically found in the school systems. The concept behind the study relates to the foundational differences between children of the same chronological and mental age who were raised in monolingual and bilingual environments. The authors suspected a difference in the language and vocabulary learning throughout development of these groups. The researchers found both benefits and drawbacks of these assessments to bilingual children. While the assessments for bilingual children can't be perfected to overcome monolingual bias, overall results supported them as reliable in identification of children with vocabulary deficits. The authors note that it is important to supplement formal assessments with the clinical observation, developmental history, and family history, and that the SLP must test bilingual children in both languages for sufficient information to evaluate speech and language.